Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire. All right, welcome back to another Railway Empire video. This is Attican, and we're going to take a look at warehouses. We're going to study warehouses in detail, figure out how to use them, what they're good for, what they're not good for, and look at multiple variations of how to properly use a warehouse to your best advantage and the trade-offs between that and not using one. So we're going to use sandbox mode so we won't be held up by money, or we won't have to wait until things happen. And let's stick with our good old 1830 buddy. The same things apply. Doesn't matter if it's 30 or 50 or 70 or 90 or 1910. It doesn't matter. Same concepts. The thing that I've noticed so far, and I haven't really done a lot of plays yet out in the later years, hope to do more, and I will do more, but basically except things happen a little faster with, of course, the bigger engines, the faster engines, but it's all the same stuff. So, same idea. And I want to use our same little happy area up here around Toledo because it's nice and flat. It's easy to see what I'm doing. We don't get the mountains in the way. And, of course, we'll use a realistic what am I trying to say? Rail network, because otherwise this is worthless. All right, so here we go.
Strong leadership and discipline are the path to victory.
And again, it doesn't matter which character we use for what I'm doing here. The same things would apply. And I'm trying to think if there's any advantage to any of the others versus in terms of warehouse. I can't think of any right now. If I do, I'll point them out. Okay.
Yours.
All right, just want him to be still. I could just turn those guys off, but I got feedback that if you turn off too much stuff, it doesn't sound like a game
run
anymore.
wild. Unlimited cash, no obligations, and no annoying competitors.
Okay, I agree with that last one. No annoying competitors. All right, so what I'm going to do is set up, first of all, a basic two-city cluster, because that's one of our basic building blocks. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, I don't know how many videos I have that have clusters in them that you can look and see what's going on. And I will make one about the two-city cluster and how to build one specifically. And we'll get a little bit of a flavor of it in this one. But basically the idea, real quick, you find a beer, you find a meat, you hook them up, you run them together. Those two will help one another grow like wildfire. All right, so what I'm going to do is set up a basic line, and we're going to have a passenger only line, because if you can, now a lot of times you'll see me run automatic lines that load between my cities, and that's when I don't want to mess with total development. I just want to make money on the line very, very quickly. And so let's put. I'm going to put our. I'm trying something new with these towers. I'm trying to put them more kind of closer to the city, so that my other lines that run into the city, and you'll see this in this one especially, from the what am I trying to say? From the warehouses that we're going to set up. We'll catch the tower. Actually, yeah, but it kind of doesn't matter. Let me see, where would this guy go if I put this down? Oops, I'm holding the wrong key down. Sorry. I'm trying to get used to using that cool control auto signaling thing, and I haven't quite gotten it down yet, to put it mildly. Okay, right in there. I'm going to actually move our supply tower to right about there. And you can get away with this in sandbox mode. Okay, because what I want is my first block to be to the tower, and then I want to use the auto signal to fill in the blocks the rest of the way. And this one should be pretty good. So auto signal is, of course, you hold the control key down and see it lines up all your signals for you in a nice spacing. And then we go do it again. Great. You do that after you set your directional signals. Sorry. Okay, good lesson there. Set your directional signal first, so you've got your one-way track going using the shift key, and then you set those things. So see, every one of them's turning the wrong way. So let's just flip them around. All right, I'll get used to this. I'm learning new things. So, but that actually raises a point. What you want to do is get in the habit of lay your track, set your directional signal, and then set your all the interim signals. Now you can see that set a whole mess of signals. So we could run a buku trains through there now, because we talked about this in the track layout 101, how you figure out how many trains you could run. Well, obviously buku trains could fit through there, but you wouldn't want them to. It'd be so slow. And all they do is wait. It would be just awful if you did that. But we're going to run a line. We are going to run a few. Let's run 1830. They're kind of slow trains. Let's run 6 trains, and we're going to make them passenger only, because passenger only lines tend to be very profitable. And let's just stick with, we can run anything, can't we? Let's go down and run our little grasshoppers. They're cool trains. 2, and actually, if I'm going to have that many, here's the trade-off with having so many signals. I really need to kind of start these guys at each side, or it's going to take them a long time to spread out. And we want them spread. How many we got? I think that's 6. All right, so now we've got, so this is our basic core setup for the passengers. Now, the big thing is we have to move freight. And obviously, in the whole thing of a 2-city cluster, if I have to move freight between these 2 cities, I have to be able to move this meat over here to help Grand Rapids. I have to be able to move this beer over here to help Toledo. Now, one way I could do that, and let's just take a look at that. One way I could do that is to build another line and make it a freight line. I could also throw freight trains on this line. You wouldn't want to do that, because that would slow down these other trains. The freight trains are going to go slower because they're carrying heavier loads. And when you get into the more advanced trains, you want to have freight trains hauling those because of the heavy loads. And they would slow down your passengers, and you make more money on the passengers the faster they go. The faster they can move between these 2 spots, the better off you are. So we could build a line and run it through here. If we were going to do that, we would have explicitly named what station these guys come out of. Remember our track layout 101. We would name what station these guys are going to use so they don't jump on us and pick a different line and mess everything up. But the good news is we're going to do warehouses. And I will tell you this. If I put a warehouse in here and connected it up so that you could go all the way through, these things will jump. I have had them jump over for me, and unfortunately, and have passenger trains running right through my warehouse, which I'm not fond of. Okay, so let's use this as our baseline, and let's talk about the first way, a couple of options for using warehouses. All right, the warehouse, and the reason I said let's think about building this line, I just want to see just how much would it cost to build the line, because here's your first trade-off. Sometimes in these scenarios you don't have tons of money to deal with. It costs about $100,000 each way, so it's going to cost us $200,000 to build another line. But then we just spawn a couple of trains and we're off and running, and we could connect everything into that and we'd be good. But let's talk about, first of all, the first way, and I think maybe an obvious one that the designers were thinking of, to use a warehouse. We're going to put a warehouse over here. And by the way, it's very important you're careful about which side you put this on. And I can tell you from experience because I did it. If you put it over here, it seems like that's a logical place to put it. There's only a couple of things over here, and there's more stuff down here that you want. But you got to envision what your network's going to look like. We would eventually, particularly in a real game, we would go like this, and we'd probably go down here like this. We might even make a 3-city cluster, and then we'd have tracks. And then that means if I have my warehouse in here, everything has to go over a line. So now I've got a bunch of bridges, tunnels that cost money, look ugly, and tend to slow down your trains because they make inclines where they have to pass over. So that would be a bad thing to put it in here. And I'm going to jump ahead to another concept that I really want to have the warehouse. Well, let me just put the warehouse down where in what might be considered a better place. We're doing a 2-city cluster, so we're going to kind of put it in the middle. Now it's awfully close to that wood. It's really too close to that wood, but it's okay. And we'll give it a little more space like that. Okay, so if we have a warehouse here, let's first of all, let's think about with the warehouse. This is kind of warehouse 101. Sorry, I don't mean to make you dizzy. Okay, warehouse 101. For it to work, you have to activate the goods, as they put it. If I ran a line for wood from here to here and put a train on it and said go, and I had not clicked this logs over here, that train would just sit there and sit there and sit there because there's no demand for it. But the beauty of a warehouse is I can create instant demand for my products by saying, what am I going to put in there? Now, here's my first recommendation. And this is what I was talking about this side over here. Don't put cattle in the warehouse. You can, and it's perfectly fine if you do, but I would recommend that you do not do that. You run it straight to whichever one in your cluster has the meat. So we would run cattle straight to Toledo because it doesn't need to go to the warehouse because they're never going to use it in Grand Rapids the way we do it. We're not going to have a second meat up here. We're going to have a different industry up here, anything but meat, basically, particularly of the ones we need. So we're not going to put cattle in there. The other one we don't put in a warehouse typically, and there are exceptions, is, where is it? Come along. Where'd it go? Oh, we're not ready for it yet, but cotton. You don't put cotton in the warehouse because, again, we're only going to have textiles in one place, and we want to run that cotton straight. So say if a textiles popped up here, we'd run the cotton straight to Toledo. If it popped up there, we'd run it straight to Toledo, not use a warehouse for that. Now, we could use a warehouse, and there'd be different scenarios where you would, but in this 2-city cluster deal, we would not. Okay? So what would we put in there? We would absolutely put the things that are going to be used in both cities. Wheat is used by both. Our beer is going to use a lot of wheat, but our other city is going to use wheat as well. They all need it. We're going to put corn. That's a fundamental growing item. Logs, that's a fundamental growing item for your early city development. And now it gets interesting. Okay. Now we have to decide, do we put store goods in our warehouse? So let's run our first model where we do. We're going to put meat in there. We're going to put beer in there. And then we've got room for one more item. So what we would do is look around and see what's going to happen. Are we going to run sugar before we run textiles? That's a great question. So what I would suggest you do is grab, either know it by heart or grab the little cheat sheet, one of the cheat sheets I have on my website, or just look it up by looking at a city and figure out what's going to happen here. Are we going to want clothing before we're going to want sugar? And the answer is no, we're not. So I would put sugar in there because that's the first things you're going to want to have. And you want to fill these needs in the right order so that you're logically growing these cities. So there's our things, and we've got this nice max button. And we can talk about the trade-offs for doing the limits, but generally speaking, you just max them all out. There are exceptions, of course, and I like to put the maintenance there just so I don't forget it. And speaking of which, I've already forgotten it. Let's put maintenance on both of these buildings so that we don't have a bunch of breakdowns and get skewed results. All right, so time's a wasting here while I do a lot of talking, but that's okay. So now we've got a warehouse, and it's got our meat and beer in it. And remember, this is a passenger-only line, and that's an advantage because look at this. Now look at this, $3,500 a week for the little old grasshopper because he's an express line. Because we've got, look at this, we've got 5 express lines and one more that probably will be. So they're going to make us really good money. Now, how do we get our goods? Well, that's super easy, obviously. We're going to run a line down to Toledo. And actually, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to stub this out. If you have the funds, do this. Stub this puppy out, like so. And you have to kind of run 4 lines out together. And watch, they can't go, if they go past, they start messing up, right? So you have to kind of run them out. Run that first one long enough so that you can run out the other 3 a reasonable distance. And I think this is a good practice, is to put your supply tower on the end like this. Now you can, in fact, you can put it right up against the station if you want. It kind of doesn't matter. But now we've got 4 lines coming out, but anyway, whichever they come from, they're going to hit this. So if we bring something in there, it's going to automatically have a supply tower. Now, if it's a really long line, we may need a second supply tower for it, but typically we won't. So now we can take that closest in line, and we can run it down here, and we can run a line. Now we could even, again, we could keep using this line and merge. But I would recommend that you do not merge with that line. Why is that? Because we don't want these slow freight trains running on the same line with our nice, beautiful passenger line that's making us our money. So we're going to build a line like this. We're going to double track it if we can. There. We are going to double track it. Doesn't like that. I don't think it likes that curve. All right, we'll come back and fix that. All right, we're going to double track into our city. That'll work. Not pretty, but it'll work. Okay. So lay your track, set your signals, set your directional signals. Set your directional signals in the right direction, and then you can use your little control signals to fill in the blanks. And now we've got ourselves this beautiful little line, and then and everything's running nicely back and forth. So now we can take goods from Toledo to the warehouse and back. Then we want the same thing, of course, on the other side. And I would recommend, what I usually do with these is I'll use 2 lines for my city movement and 2 lines for my raw materials coming in. So if I use this bottom line, track 4, for Toledo, then I want to use track 3 for Grand Rapids. And at the same time, I want to do that same little, now that line right there may never be used, but it doesn't cost that much, so I'm going to put it in there. We want to do that same little, build our little stub so that we can put a supply tower in here. And that way, now we know our Grand Rapids line will hit this tower, but all this stuff coming in will not. So that's the main reason for that, those towers. So we're going to use this to go down, and we might as well just come on down and run along with our track. Come on down. Like so. And double track it back. Like so. Did I just goof up? I just goofed up. Sorry about that. I meant to double track it like this, a point-to-point connection, not a double connection. All right, so then we lay our track, set our signals, directional signals. Make sure we've got supplies. This is really a good 4-step process. Lay your track, double track it, set your signals, make sure you've got supplies, and then set the balance of your signals. And we can use our nifty little control. All right. And now we've got this nice line, everything's running beautifully, and we can run between the cities. Now, we haven't brought any raw materials in yet. Do we have anything of value here yet? Absolutely we do. Watch what happens here. If I set a line from here to here, and put a train on it, and you know what? Let's use the Philadelphia the rest of the way, because it's just it's too much trouble to go down there and find that other one. So I'm running Philadelphia there. Now what's he going to do? He's going to take beer and put it in our warehouse, because the warehouse will take beer. And he's going to grab something if there's something there and take it back. Well, there won't be anything, right? But if we have a line running this way as well from Toledo, come along, and we add a train, and now we've got meat going there. And what's going to happen is these guys are essentially going to exchange goods, and they're going to take meat back here and beer back here, and our cities are going to start helping each other grow. Now that would have been the same thing that would have happened had we run our freight line and run freight trains back and forth. Same effect, but the beauty of it is it's going through the warehouse, and what's going to happen, and you'll see it as we go on. All right, now let's put something in there that they can use. So let's go out here and grab wheat. By the way, wheat would be a great one to start with as a general rule. Both sides need it. You know that your beer needs it. So wheat's a good one to start with. Cattle's a good one to start with to get your meat industry going. And now we've got, remember, we're going to use our two kind of top plugs as our entry points into the system. And a lot of times what I'll do is say, well, if it's depending, and this all depends on where your resources are. But if I'm going to be, looks like I'm going to be running a lot of stuff in from half stuff from over here and half stuff from over there, then I will run it in and say, okay, well, from this side, we're going to plug into, say, that guy. And that's actually a little hard because of the stub. So let's say we'll plug into that guy. And we don't need that big giant loop. Well, we need a little space for our logs. Actually, that's fine. All right, so now we've got a line running, wheat going in. So we'd want to double track that, or you could build a little passing lane if you're into that. I like double tracks anytime I can. I build a double track all the way as far as I can. It's just so much easier to manage, but again, it comes down to funds. All right, so now we can see we've got wheat coming in. We've also got that supply tower, so we don't have to worry about putting a tower out here. He's going to be able to get supplies either coming in or going out, and he's going to be all cool. So we lay our track, we set our directional signals. All right, we set our directional signals. We check to see if we have supplies. We do. And then we use our nifty tool to do a control and a control and set our interim signals. Now we've got a beautiful line. And we do. Now, when we're bringing stuff in, we want to be full. There's no reason to take a trip without a load. So be full. And take stuff to our warehouse. Now wheat is going to start going to our warehouse, and I'm going to actually clone this and run a couple more trains. And I'm also, while I'm at it, I'm going to see, where's our Philadelphia? We're going to make all those Philadelphia. We're going to make all of our trains. into Philadelphia's. Okay. For consistent results. And you also probably see these numbers pop up a little bit. We'll make a little more money, but that's not the point in this video anyway. Pardon me. So now what's happening with our line here? Let's see how it's going. See, he's taking meat back. He may end up taking more. Now, the whole trick with these warehouses is balancing how much stuff you have coming in, how many trains you're running, how many lines, and how many trains you want to run back and forth between here. Now, the beauty of this double track setup where this is not sharing a line, it's got its own line, is we could run however many trains we want on here without overburdening it up to a fairly large number. So I'm going to pump this up so that we've got more trains going. And I'm going to pump up the Toledo side as well so that we have more trains going. And now we'll start seeing, look at this, now we're seeing wheat going back to Grand Rapids. So it's going to automatically look at our demand, our supply, and it's going to look at the demand in the city, and it's going to match up the demand here with the supply in the city. That's the beauty of this. It just sort of does its thing for you. Look, let's see what Toledo's doing. It's taking wheat back because it's already taken beer back. So right now it needs wheat worse than it needs beer. So ta-da, here we go. And when we get down to the point where, oh, we need more beer, it will grab beer. And all the time when it comes back, it's going to bring back whatever is available for export from the city. So all our exports are going to go to the warehouse and be ready to be used by other cities, in this case, one other city. All right, I hope this is making sense to you. So now we've got this beautiful thing going. So what we want to do now is keep pumping it up. We want to put other stuff in it. Wood, of course, is a great thing to put in there. Now we got this little tiny line here. We can run one train and we can just plug it right. It won't plug there, but we can just plug it right there into this line. And we can check our signals here. Okay, see now this is a two-way now, but that's perfectly fine. What's going to happen is this guy will run down, come in, do his thing, and go back out. And our corn will come down here, wait, come in, do its thing, and go back out this way. So they'll coexist perfectly well. And the one thing I would probably do in a situation like this is put a signal right here. Whoops. Oh, I definitely don't want the red on it. This is going to be a two-way lane. We're only going to run one train, because one train can that's such a short hop, they can keep a supply of logs going in there for us. But we want to say, go on down here and wait your turn right here. Don't wait all the way up here. Wait down here for your turn to go in, okay? So now we're going to set a line from here to here. And we're going to say, every time you're full, bring us some more logs. And here we go. It's starting to load. Now we'll have logs as one of the things we can use in our warehouse. Now, by doing that, building that little line, we have now supplied, now this is what's beautiful, we've now supplied logs to both these cities. And I'll show you in a little bit, we may have even done more than that if we choose to. Now, what else are we going to put in this warehouse? We said we would put, we only have room, corn and sugar. Well, once we get corn and sugar, we're going to be hopping. The closest corn I happen to know is right down here. So we're going to grab that corn with a station. We're going to run it down here and use the other, whichever, we'll use this one, which is the one we didn't use from the other side. Doesn't matter a lot, but it does kind of share the load, spread that load out. We run this nice straight line right in there. It will get supplies at the end of it. It's pretty long, but I think we could run without supplies. Let's just find out. And we're going to double track it. And this would be a good case where if you were tight on money, you might just build a little passing lane in the middle, right? And that way you could run multiple. In fact, let's just do that just for illustration purposes. Instead of double tracking the whole thing, we're just going to double track a little part of it here. And then if we put signals here, and here. Now we've got the ability to run, how many trains could we run? This is kind of a quiz. Okay, how many places could it stop? 1, 2, 3, 4, and it could technically stop at the warehouse too, which would be 5 coming in. I don't think it could stop coming out. So we could run like 4 trains. We could certainly run 3 with no trouble. In fact, let's just run 3. We'll run 3 trains. Now, by the way, again, if you're playing the real deal, you probably would start with just 1 train and see if it could keep up, because you've got, money can be really tight at the beginning of these scenarios, especially if you do it like I do and take minimal money to start with. You're playing very hard. It can be tight. You've got to manage everything. But let's run 3 trains just to show that little passing lane will allow 3 trains to run reasonably efficiently through here, and off we go. Now, oh good, we've got a security guard. I'm going to hire that guy. I want to talk about that for a minute. Okay. I will do one on employees at some point, but I want to talk about that one in particular because that's going to illustrate a good point. We do not get paid for moving goods into a warehouse. You get squat for it. So this train I could show you with this guy right here. This first train, he hadn't made a complete loop yet. All right, let's run for a minute. Let him make a complete loop. Of course, we get a breakdown right as we're waiting. What a perfect time! I really think I swear I think the developers do that on purpose. Okay. So when he's made a complete loop, we'll get some statistics on how much money he's making us. And see, that our little deal here is working. That wheat train came out, the log train came in, now the wheat train's going to come in. And he's actually needs some supplies, so he tops himself off and he runs into the warehouse and he unloads and off he goes back, and you can see everything's running nice and smoothly. Everybody's doing what they need to do. And we'll talk about our balancing again here in a minute, but see, here's a Toledo train coming back and getting some stuff. And there's not quite enough in there for him to get. So that means we've got enough trains. When you see these trains running less than full going back to the cities, you know you've got enough goods in here. Okay, so everything's looking beautiful, and I'm waiting on the statistics. I want to get the data on this guy. And our farm is loading a little bit slowly, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. It's already up to a level 2. Isn't that nice? It's already bumped it up to a level 2. That's cool. We'll talk about that another day, but the leveling of these things. I mean, there's so much to talk about in this game. Have we got statistics yet? He's coming back. Hopefully we'll get statistics when he gets back there. Oh, you know what? Oh, did we get them? All right, well, let me do it from the other end. Look at these 2 trains here that are running. All they're doing is running here to here, a little tiny route. Look at the money they're making. There's 2 reasons for that. One, they're running full or close to full most of the time, but they don't get paid for taking stuff to the warehouse, but they're just getting paid for this little trip right here. Now, why are they making so much money? Because they're actually getting paid for the work that these guys did. So they're getting paid for taking wheat to Grand Rapids, logs to Grand Rapids, corn eventually to Grand Rapids. Okay, you with me? So you get paid for the actual delivery to somebody who'll consume it. You don't get paid for moving it into the warehouse. So when you look at these lines, you keep thinking, you'll see the stats. And I keep waiting for the numbers, and I'm not getting them. But you would see stats that would show negative. They're actually, oh, I know what it is. We're in sandbox mode. We don't have any costs. If we had costs, this would be negative because we'd actually be running paying our maintenance costs for it. I think we're not getting charged the cost because we're in sandbox mode. So so be it. So that's but at any rate, we would have a slight negative on these guys. They'd be running basically on maintenance costs, and then a big profit on the ones that actually take it into the cities. See this, we're making good money on those, and we're making good money on our nice passenger lines. Okay, enough of that. All right, so I hope you get the idea. And by the way, in a tight scenario, that's a trade-off. Do I want it? If I need to get that money right away, I might consider not using a warehouse and run the goods directly in for a while so that I'm getting paid for them. Because if I have to wait and accumulate enough money to have a warehouse, and I can't afford to both run stuff into the warehouse and run stuff back to the city, I'm going to be spending money on the warehouse, the line, and the freight coming into the warehouse and not making a penny. I'm going to actually be losing money. So you got to consider that when you figure this thing out. So I got one more thing here I want to do. I want to run corn to fill up that warehouse. I want to run corn in there. And then there's one thing we haven't done that's shame on us, and this would be, we're focusing on the warehouse, but we haven't put meat in Toledo, and that's a sin right now. That should have been done very, very early. So here we're just going to run parallel, and this is why I hate not doubling the track, because I'd really rather just forget this. We're going to double this track. I can't stand these little passing lanes. That's just not how I play. All right, I'd love to delete that, but I can't just yet. So let's build a line. At least double up this end part of it. Okay. And once we get that train, I'm not sure he'll go. You know what? You need to go away. I want to fix this. I can't stand not doubling my track. I like to have double track. It's so much easier to manage. It gives you more options. It's just, if you can afford it, just do it. Build your double track. Well, that's why he wouldn't go, because there's a train coming back. That's okay. And now we've got, all right, we've got a signal going that way. We've got a signal going this way. Good deal. All right, so now I think I owe these guys a train. Yeah, because I killed one. Sorry about that. Now we want to run our line for our corn, and here's where we could, if we chose to, we could run a double track in there all by itself and link it up later. But this is where I don't mind at all doing merging lines, because we've got very minimal traffic going on this one. We've got 3 trains that ever run on there. So let's go ahead and do a simple merger. We merge with the first line, we bump over to the other side, and then we check our signals, and we see that we've messed up our signals. So we just put a signal in here and say like that, and then let's use our fancy tool and put some more signals in there. And did we put them in? Okay, lovely. And we can put one right here, so the trains coming out of here can at least run all the way up to there. All right. So now we've got a merger, and we're going to double this track back. And unlike our wimpy corn line, we're going to run it all the way back. So you lay your track, and I'm sorry I keep repeating this, but it's worth it. Lay your track. Set your directional signals. Make sure you've got supplies. In this case, we've got supplies down there. Then, once you have the track, the directional signals, and the supplies, then you use your cool little control to lay out the rest of your interim signals, and you go with your line. So we're going to run sugar in there. And let's run like 3 trains. And now here's where my great sin, what I didn't do was connect my meat, my cattle ranch. Should have done this like either before or right after the wheat, way back at the beginning. So we're going to run a direct line of cattle, and I'd like it to pick up that tower right there. Good deal. So we'll run a direct line of cattle into Toledo. And we'll double track it because we're going to run more than one train. And I'm about to, well, maybe not. Pretend I didn't say anything just now. Okay. So we lay our track, we set our directional signals on both ends. We make sure we've got supplies. We do. And we use our handy dandy control key to give us interim signal. And we can go down here and see if one will fit. It probably won't. It would, but we don't need to. Okay, so now we run our line in here and start feeding that. That was shame on us. Shame on me, shame on me. You don't have to take blame for that. 1, 2, or is that 1? That's 1, 2. Ah, crap. Let's just run three trains in there. Let's make sure we have it. Now, here's the other nice thing about supply and demand. We've got, and this cattle, and the warehouse works the same way. We've got this cattle going here. As long as they need cattle, we'll keep filling it up here at a certain pace and we'll bring it in. If there's a point where we get it saturated and their warehouse can't hold any more cattle to process, then we'll just hold up here until such time as they need it again. So it all kind of, it self-manages really. And look at our city. Look at how our cities are growing. We're at 62%. We're already at 70,000 for Toledo. And then if we put in the magic bullet, my favorite building, the warehouse or museum, excuse me, then Toledo is going to just keep on growing, and we haven't even given it the cattle. I mean, think about that. It's probably been getting some cattle. Oh, maybe from here it's been getting it by land, but that's not fast enough. Which, by the way, we could have done this over here. It would have been nice too. I didn't think about that. But anyway, now this is going to grow like crazy. Now our meat supply over here is going to be even better because it's probably, yes, it's kind of weak, but it'll get better. There'll be more meat shipped over here to the warehouse. And now we're going to start seeing both these cities grow like crazy. So now we've got a beautiful 2-city cluster supported by this warehouse. We've got a goods exchange going. This is life is good. And you can see how basically simple this is. There's no big deal here. The other thing we look at is our industries. Now look here. We've got one here, and there's going to be another one soon. And we've got textiles, which is perfect because that's the next thing you want, is textiles in your cluster. So we need to make sure that those textiles are getting goods. And remember, I said that the two things that I would recommend you, two of the things I would say don't put in the warehouse are usually are cattle and corn. So we're going to run our cattle, our let's see, would it be crazy to run it up there? Not really. We're going to run it up there so it catches the supplies, and it's as good a place as any to merge. So we'll make sure it catches the supplies. Now it needs to cross over, so it'll cross over right after the supplies. And we'll check our signals And we can see that this line here, let's see what got interrupted. This one got interrupted. And this one down here got interrupted, so we can put a signal in here to make sure that this guy drives on this side. He'll come back on that side. Beautiful. And we will double track this back. And lay our track, set our signals, make sure we got supplies, which we do, and then use our tool to set our interim signals. Beautiful. And we'll run a cutting line into Toledo, always full. And off we go. 1, 2, why not 3? All right, we're going to stop right there for this first part. We've got a beautiful situation going here. We've got a lovely 2-city cluster. We've got a warehouse supporting it. But now we're moving into what you might think of as phase 2. We have some new challenges to deal with, and we'll take care of those in part 2 of this video series on warehousing and the 2-city cluster. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.